Minimal detective story. Oh, this is a good one. Okay, so this is a question in logic, all right? This really happened, this story really happened, 1975? Yeah, 75. When I was an algebra prof, I did my graduate work at the University of Toronto. So, I had this really eccentric professor. We call him Peter. His name was Peter. Very eccentric looking. Now, this guy came to class in a cream-colored suit. Very, you know, from the UK, right? He came from the UK. Cream-colored suit, tie. Hair was all over the place, white hair, and a beard. And glasses, round glasses. And he looked like your stereotypical professor, right, of mathematics. So, he was my algebra prof. There were 6 of us in class. These master's classes were very small sometimes. 6 of us in class. In those days, you were allowed to smoke in class. It's hard to believe, but you could smoke in class. So this guy came with the cigarettes. Can I tell you the one about the other prof I had with the wore the blue suits? Some of you may have heard of it. One is, okay, let's do two stories. So first, the story about the algebra prof. He comes into class and he sits down. And this guy, literally, this is the desk. There was a desk in front like this one. And you would sit on the desk and pull out a nail clipper and clip his nails. And he talked about algebra. Talked about algebra. Nothing on the board. Nothing. Talk. And you're there. You're listening. And you're trying to write down what he's saying. Because he doesn't write anything, right? He talks about it. So, I guess at some point he realizes that we're getting a bit tired of 1.5 hours of this stuff. One day, he stops. And he said, did I ever tell you about my good friend Max Zorn? Z-O-R-N. If anybody knows math, there's something called Zorn's lemma, which has to do with the axiom of choice and all this stuff. And this guy knew Max Zorn. And he says, one day Zorn told me this story. And he called it minimal detective story. Right? So minimal detective story. Right? Minimal detective story. In other words, it's a detective story, so something happens, right? And it's minimal. By minimal, what I mean is that everything I'm going to tell you is both necessary and sufficient to find the answer. Everything that I tell you is there. You don't need anything else to find the answer. Nothing else. So of course, Peter says, okay, Max, go ahead. Right? So Max Zorn tells Peter the story. So I'm actually going to write it down because it has nothing to do with writing it down, but I'm going to write it down. Even though our teacher just told us already. Because it's that easy. Minimum. There are 3 people. Okay? Mrs. Jones. A gardener. And the butler. Okay? Minimal detective story. There are 3 people. Mrs. Jones, a gardener, the butler. 3 people. No cats, dogs, nothing, right? 3 people. So someone, well, let's say, I don't want to use the word killed, although that's what he used, because it's a detective story, right? Let's say somebody knocked Mrs. Jones on the head with a crowbar or something. Whatever. Someone, Mrs. Jones. Right? Okay, so use whatever verb is appropriate. Someone lied to Mrs. Jones, someone, whatever, right? Mrs. Jones. Next line. Who did it? Now, can you imagine? This is all you have. This is all you're given. And this has one answer only. A real answer. And there's only logic, right? So Peter tells us this in class, right? So we're thinking about this. There must be some catch, right? People. I mean, are these aliens? Are there people? I mean, maybe people can split into 2 parts. I mean, we're thinking about all sorts of stuff, right? No. It says they're real people. Just three people, like three human beings, right? Mrs. Jones, a gardener, and a butler. Someone lied, let's say, to Mrs. Jones, right? Who did it? How can that have been answered? It looks like there isn't enough information, right? But remember what the assumption is. The assumption is that it's minimal. The word minimal imposes a severe restriction on the answer. Namely, you don't need any other assumptions. Everything you need is in those 7 lines to determine 6 lines, because the last question is, we did it. Everything you need is there. So we thought about it, and we thought about it, and we thought about it for another hour, and we asked all kinds of questions like you might want to ask me, and he kept saying, no, stick to what I told you. Right, click, 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 stick to it, click, click, click. Smoke, smoke, smoke. The classrooms are full of smoke. You know, it was about a year later that I think they put the ban on smoking in classrooms. It's in 76 in Toronto. And then it started all over the world. But I mean, back then you could smoke in class. And this other prof I had was really strange. His name was, his name was Groig. Poor man, I mean, he's dead now. And Groig had this mysterious habit. I mean, he always came in with a navy blue suit. He was German, right? Swiss German. And he spoke with this accent from Germany, but he spoke English fairly well. But unfortunately, he used a chalk and he smoked like crazy. Right? The smoking killed him eventually, cancer. But there was this funny story about him in class, and he even laughed about it one day. I never remembered this story. Is that he's giving this class, and everywhere, he says, read X for B. So in other words, instead of writing the space B of H, right, you write some stuff in algebraic geometry, and he writes B of H, B of H, B of H2, right, and all this stuff. And we say, but sir, what's B of H? He means, oh, no, it should be X of H, right? So everywhere there were B's on the blackboard, because this guy did use a blackboard, right, everywhere there were B's, he said, replace all 4 X's forever. So of course his name ended in a B. So we called him Groix. And the first time we told him, he said, but you know what my name is? I said, no, you said replace X for B, with B for X, right? So we called him Groix. He burst out laughing like crazy. Dropped a cigarette. I mean, really, he thought that was amazing, right? But the most amazing thing about this prof was he would come into class with a cigarette, and he always held a cigarette. And he always held this chalk. And he always got them confused. So sometimes he would start writing, oh, wait, which one is it? Oh, this is a cigarette. Oh, wait. Right? And then he would put him down, and then pick the wrong one up, and put the chalk in his mouth. Oh, no! Put them down. And you had to think about it. You could see him think which one was which, because they look the same. Right? White cigarettes, no filters, right? No filters, they look like chalk. And you always got them confused. So anyways, this is poor Groig. He always came to our party. He was a great guy. Always came to the math parties, math association parties that we had. He was a great guy to be with. But anyways, so that story. So I want you to think about this. Does anybody know the answer? I only have 1 minute. Anybody know the answer offhand? Did you even hear it from anybody else? I don't know. Aliens? Well, that's a good one. But the word alien does not appear here, right? See, so if a word does not appear here, you're not allowed to use it because it's minimal. Yeah?
Mrs. Jones committed suicide?
Mrs. Jones committed suicide. Okay. Well, first of all, you can't determine the gender of the person, given what I said, right? Yeah. But the answer is unique. Your answer has the word Mrs. in front. Can you deduce that from this? No. You can't deduce that from this. That it's Mrs. Jones. Can you deduce that it's the butler? Logically. No. There's nothing that tells you it's the butler. Can you deduce that it's the gardener? No. You can't deduce it because, again, there's not enough information to deduce that it's the gardener. Can you deduce it's Mrs. Jones? No, because you don't know that it's the gender of the person. You don't know the gender of the butler. You don't know the gender of anybody except Mrs. Jones, who you know is female, right?
Wait, what?
Did she commit suicide? We don't really know. I mean, that's assuming she died, right? But I'm just saying here, someone lied to Mrs. Jones. So who lied to her? Only one answer. Nah, okay, the word someone, we came up with that one too. He said, nah, we're not playing with words here. But I mean, we are playing with words too. But he said, no, someone is not the name of a person, right? Because someone, and therefore someone is the answer. No, that's not it. A real person. So, someone lied to Mrs. Jones. Who lied to Mrs. Jones? Okay, same problem. How do you know that the gender is male? Not enough information.
Just Jones.
The man has it. Jones. That's it. Oh, you heard it before. You didn't hear it. That's marvelous. Got it. The answer is Jones. Okay, for the reasons I told you. Can you deduce that the butler did it? No. The gardener? No. Mrs. Jones? No. Because we don't know if it's Mrs. or not, or Mr. or what, right? Mr. Jones. So the only way you can identify the person that lied is by name. And the only name available in the story is Jones. Therefore, Jones is the answer. He didn't get it either. The prof didn't get it either. But he loved it.